She arrived home at 10, heels tapping a careless rhythm on the tiles. She didn't meet my eyes. She slid past me as if I were part of the furniture. Then she smiled that small, sharp curled lip and said, as if daring me, I slept with someone, and I'd do it again. The words landed like knives. I didn't shout. I didn't throw the plates. I finished my bite, swallowed, and nodded once. That single nod had the first ember of what I would become. We'd been married 7 years. 7 years of routines that folded into one another, soft jokes in the dark, and plans whispered between bedrooms. I thought I knew the grammar of us. I had carried her through scrapes, money gone wrong, family storms, nights when she needed someone to lean on. I believed that was steady ground. Her smirk at 10 o'clock exposed how little of that steadiness meant to her. Pain washed over me first. Then, slowly, something colder, lucidity. I didn't erupt. Anger rarely wins where preparation does. Instead, I began to move in silence. While she slept, I began to secure the things she assumed were safe. Passwords were changed, accounts examined, documents collected. I learned how to find the skeletons in the shared life we had built. The accounts only I had access to, the legal papers that favored one name over the other. Her phone, which she kept face down and guarded like contraband, betrayed her when left unlocked for a moment. Names, messages, photos. Each fragment went into a hidden folder I encrypted and backed up. I knew I was beginning something that could not be undone. For 2 weeks, I played the part of the man who'd been wounded and would forgive. I cooked. I kissed her cheek on cue. I let her assume the storm had passed. Under that calm, I was methodical. I transferred assets legally where I could, close lines she thought were joint, and documented everything. My friend who worked in IT taught me to recover things that seemed deleted. When the recovered threads came back, they were a litany of nights and encounters that left no room for plausible deniability. I printed the records not to humiliate her in the moment, but to build an unassailable case. Then I waited until she slipped into her old habits. One Friday she dressed up and said she was meeting a friend. I let her go. I followed at a distance, not out of spite for the sake of it, but because I needed proof she couldn't spin away. They laughed together in a bar. Her hand rested on his arm. Familiar gestures that once would have belonged to me. I took photos, short videos, timestamps, evident of a life she continued to live in secret. When she came home late, the scent of perfume and alcohol trailing her, I was already at the table with papers spread like a dealer's hand. She blinked at the stack. "What's this?" she asked, searching for a lie to anchor herself. I laid the printouts before her, each page a small indictment. Names, messages, dates. Her color went out her face. She reached for excuses, but I'd already compiled what would be needed. "You said you'd do it again," I said softly. You smiled and told me the same. The day after, things she took for granted vanished. Her car, legally in my name, was reclaimed. Cards were canceled. Accounts frozen where my name was the one that mattered. Drawers that once held cosmetics and receipts now held echoes. Emptied while she slept, packed into boxes marked, in the end, for her to collect. I filed for divorce with a pile of evidence a lawyer couldn't ignore. Clear records of infidelity, documented financial discrepancies that showed who had been careful and who had been careless. When she tried to contest it, the messages she had sent became her own rope. Judges are not moved by theatrical pleas or performances of contrition when faced with documented patterns. The house stayed with me. The bulk of the savings, the accounts I had made sure were secure, they stayed with me. She left with the garments she came home in and the hollow sound of a life she had presumed unassailable now collapsing. The absolute turning point came, absurdly enough, at her sister's birthday. She arrived visibly strained and tried to turn the narrative into one of victimhood. Whispers spread across the room as I, calmly, placed the evidence on the table in front of everyone. Printed messages, photos, dates. The air tightened. Her sister started to cry. Her father left the room. She curled into herself and sobbed, not in remorse but in the raw exposure being seen. The power balance shifted in that instant. She was no longer the one with leverage. I had taken that. Do I regret it? No. Regret would mean something is left to grieve, some tether to pull me back. The tether broke the night. She smiled and declared she would do it again. After that, I felt only a steady emptiness where fury and love had once tangled. I wake now to my own quiet, make coffee alone, and drink it without a script. The habit of being on the defensive, of folding and forgiving on cue, is gone. She thought betrayal would make me smaller, render me pleading and broken. Instead, it sharpened me into something deliberate. I burned her illusions not with fire and noise, but with patient, exact measures until everything she had counted on was gone. I don't hate her anymore. Hatred requires energy. I don't love her anymore. Love requires trust. In the place of both sits a cold satisfaction that the world is fair in its own ledger. She chose exposure, and I chose to answer in kind. The silence that remains is cleaner than any battle cry.